It began, as most horrors do, with something small, a curiosity, a trifle, something that seemed harmless at first, even amusing. But by the time I realized the truth, it was far too late. I found the book in a dusty corner of an antique shop, tucked between a cracked vase and a stack of yellowed newspapers. It was bound in dark leather, the kind that feels cold to the touch, and its pages were blank, completely blank. No title, no author, no markings of any kind, just empty, pristine pages waiting to be filled. The shopkeeper, an old man with milky eyes and a voice like dry leaves, claimed he had no memory of how it came to be in his shop. He sold it to me for a pittance, almost as if he were eager to be rid of it. I took it home, thinking it would make a fine journal. I was a writer, after all, and I had been struggling with a new story, a horror story, to be precise. But no matter how hard I tried, the words wouldn't come. The blank page had become my enemy, and I hoped this new book might break the curse. That night, I sat at my desk, the book open before me. I uncapped my pen, ready to write. But as I touched the nib to the page, something strange happened. The ink flowed from my pen, but it wasn't my hand guiding it. The words appeared on their own, forming sentences I had not intended to write. The man sat alone in his study, the weight of his failure pressing down on him. He did not notice the shadows gathering in the corners of the room, nor the faint whispering that seemed to come from the walls themselves. I stared at the words, my heart pounding. The description was unmistakable. It was me, my study, my failure. I looked around the room, half expecting to see the shadows moving, but everything was still, quiet. I told myself it was a coincidence, a trick of my tired mind, but deep down, I knew better. The next morning, I woke to find more words had appeared in the book. The story continued, describing my night in vivid detail, the nightmares I had, the cold sweat that drenched my sheets, the way I had bolted upright at 3 a.m., convinced I had heard someone whispering my name. I read the passage with growing dread. It was all true, every word. I tried to destroy the book. I threw it in the fire, but the flames wouldn't touch it. I buried it in the backyard, but by morning it was back on my desk, pristine and unblemished. I even tried to leave it behind, driving miles away to abandon it in a remote forest, but when I returned home, there it was, waiting for me. The story kept writing itself, and the events it described kept happening to me. A strange man began following me, his face obscured by a wide-brimmed hat. I found claw marks on my front door. The whispering grew louder, more insistent. I could feel something watching me, something ancient and malevolent, and all the while, the book chronicled it all, page after page, in relentless detail. I realized then that the book was not just recording my life, it was shaping it. It was rewriting my reality, twisting it into something dark and unrecognizable. And I knew, with a sickening certainty, that there was only one way to stop it. I had to finish the story. I flipped to the end of the book, hoping to find some clue, some way to escape. But what I saw there filled me with despair. The final chapter had a title written in bold, jagged letters, his death. I had no choice. I had to keep going. I had to see it through to the end. I began writing, my hand trembling as I added my own words to the book. I described my attempts to fight back, to uncover the source of the curse. I wrote about the rituals I performed, the ancient texts I consulted, the sacrifices I made. But no matter what I did, the story always twisted back to the same inevitable conclusion. The man in the hat grew closer. The whispers became a chorus, chanting words I could not understand. The shadows in my study began to move, coalescing into shapes that defied description. And through it all, the book kept writing, its pages filling faster than I could read them. Now, as I sit here, pen in hand, I can feel it coming, the end, The final chapter. The book is almost full, and I know what must come next. I have no illusions about my fate. The story will finish itself, one way or another. But perhaps, just perhaps, if I write the words myself, I can exert some control over how it ends. So I write. I write until my hand cramps and my vision blurs. I write until the shadows close in and the whispers become a deafening roar. I write until there is only one sentence left. And then, at last, he died. The pen falls from my hand. The book closes itself, and the darkness takes me.